Thank you so much, Natalie. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you see it. Yeah, great. All right. Hello, everybody. So great to be here again with my wonderful collaborators from Nanit. And today I'd like to talk to you about infant sleep problems and share some results from our recent study that examined what makes parents perceive their infant sleep as problematic. So some parents have their baby sleep all figured out, like this New Zealand dad, for example.
Yeah, g'day and welcome to this instructional video on how to put a baby to sleep. Do you want to go to sleep? It's never really that easy, so the shush train. Shh, 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 shh. The standard blanket that you renamed Blanky. Works every time. Method acting. Oh man, must be time for you to go to sleep. Sleep time. Sleepy. Sleepy. You gotta go to sleep?
Easy, right? Well, it's not always that easy. So for other parents, it could be a bit more of a challenge. And we know from previous research that there are several factors that correlate with perceived infant sleep problems. These include infant sleep metrics, infant characteristics like temperament, family demographics such as ethnicity and parental education or SES, parenting practices like breastfeeding or room sharing, and also emotional and behavioral parent characteristics. So, for example, there have been links have been demonstrated between perceived infant sleep problems and postnatal depression, as well as low tolerance for infant crying. And previous studies that have looked at the strength of such correlations have identified that the number of infant nighttime awakenings are the strongest determinant of whether a parent thinks their baby has a sleep problem. But most of these findings have relied on parent reports of infant sleep. So that leaves us with kind of this gap in understanding what is happening objectively in the crib. And it's actually not just parent-reported infant sleep metrics, it's mostly been maternal reports, with father's point of view relatively being neglected, as in many areas in developmental research. So we decided to conduct a study that would address two research questions. The first would be which objectively measured infant sleep metrics and which parent factors are most strongly associated with parent-perceived infant sleep problems. And based on prior findings, we hypothesized that more frequent nighttime awakenings would be the strongest indicator of parent-perceived sleep problems. And we also thought that other factors would be associated. So infant sleep metrics such as shorter sleep duration, earlier sleep offset time, and other metrics as well, such as parental visits to the crib, and also emotional and behavioral parental characteristics such as depression, daytime sleepiness, low parental cry tolerance, and also demographic characteristics. And our second question was whether these associations were different between mothers and fathers in their strength and whether they were significant in both parent genders. So to answer these questions, we collected data from over 3,100 infants aged 1 to 18 months old, primarily from North America. We used auto video sonography. You're going to hear a lot about this amazing tool today. So we used Nanit cameras to collect objective continuous sleep data over, we wanted to get a fortnight. We had a minimum of 4 nights, and the mean was 11.7 per infant. So in total, we had over 37,000 individual nights of data for this study. So a lot more than what we would have gotten if we used actigraphy or other objective assessment methods. And then we paired this objective data with data from an online survey that measured parental perception of a sleep problem using the BISC, parental depression levels using the EPDS, daytime sleepiness using the Epworth, cry tolerance, and demographic characteristics. And what did we find? So let's start by looking at the raw differences between parents who perceived a problem. So this is the yellow rain cloud plots that you see here, the P for problem group. We had about 26% of parents in this group, so that was 778 parents that perceived their baby to have a small to serious problem with their sleep, which is very similar to the percentages that we see in other epidemiological studies. And then we have the blue group, the NP, no problem group, parents who didn't perceive their sleep, their infant sleep as a problem. And as you can see here across the board, we saw significant group differences. Infants in the problem group had more frequent nighttime awakenings and more parent nighttime crib visits. They also had shorter total sleep durations, later sleep onset times, and earlier sleep offset times on average. So essentially, these babies in the yellow group were sleeping less and waking up and being visited by their parents more often throughout the night. And to find out which correlations held when other factors and covariates were included, we ran adjusted logistic regression models. And as you can see here, 8 factors emerged as significant correlates of perceived infant sleep problems in the entire sample. So these included parent nighttime crib visits, cry tolerance, depression, infant sleep duration, parent daytime sleepiness, parent education, breastfeeding, and infant sleep offset time. Interestingly, once we accounted for parent visits, which I think is one of the really the greatest strengths that we have with auto video sonography, because we have not only objective metrics of infant sleep, but also objective metrics of parent behavior, how often they visit their baby during the night. So when we accounted for the visits, the number of infant awakenings was no longer a significant predictor, and this was in previous studies found as the strongest predictor. So I think it suggests that it isn't just the baby waking up that concerns the parents or makes them feel that there's a problem, but it's the act of having to get out of bed, having to intervene, wanting to check on the baby, that visiting behavior that's the strongest correlate as we saw in this data. When we looked at mothers versus fathers, most correlates were similar. So the patterns were pretty much alike. We have to remember that we were a bit more powered with mothers than fathers. So it makes sense that some of the correlations held with the mother sample, but not with the father sample. But we also looked at interactions between parent gender and each of these correlates. And there was only one significant interaction, and that was with cry tolerance. So we found a significant interaction effect where low cry tolerance was a much stronger predictor of problem perception for fathers than for mothers. And for mothers, sleep duration and their own daytime sleepiness were uniquely significant, which also maybe suggests that there is some unequal division of nighttime caregiving. We had some young infants in this sample. Many of them were breastfeeding, so it makes sense that there are also differences in that respect between mothers and fathers as well. Finally, we wanted to know which parent or child characteristics mattered most. So which one was most dominant or strongest, and that's why we performed a dominance analysis. And we found that the 3 strongest predictors of perception of infant sleep problems were all parent-related. I see I have problems instead of problems here, are all parent-related predictors. So we had nighttime crib visits, that's parental behavior. We had parental cry tolerance and parental depression. And in fact, the parent-related factors accounted for more than 3 times the explained variance compared to infant-related factors. So this really highlights that parental characteristics are central in shaping how sleep is perceived and labeled. So what do these findings mean? I think it seems that parental perceptions may be shaped more by parents' own behaviors and emotions than by the baby's objective sleep patterns. The number of times a parent visits the crib during the night is the single strongest indicator that they feel that there's a problem. Each additional visit increased the odds of parents perceiving a problem by 18%. So that's a pretty strong effect. And we also found that sleep problem perception correlates were mostly similar between mothers and fathers. Oh, sorry about that. And really, these results suggest that when a parent seeks help, we need to be looking at the whole family system, not just the infant sleep metrics. So this is really in line with Sadeh and Anders' classic transactional model of infant sleep. Infant sleep development is co-constructed. It's a dynamic system where the parents' psychological state, their depression levels, their tolerance for child distress, and their interactive behaviors like crib visits shape and influence how sleep is regulated and perceived. So there were some cool strengths to the study, including the use of a very large sample and the use of objective home-based sleep assessment in both mothers and in fathers. But of course, there were limitations that we should keep in mind. First of all, the data is cross-sectional, so we can't claim that there's a causal relationship, for example, with parental depression. Depression can amplify perceived infant sleep problems, but at the same time, ongoing struggles with infant sleep every night can contribute, of course, to depressed mood, especially if parent sleep is hindered. So there are bidirectional relationships here that we think are going on. Other limitations include our sample being primarily high SES and North American, the Nanit camera only capturing what happens inside the crib, and that's kind of being a little bit blind to what happens when the baby is taken out. And there are also other factors that we could have assessed and we didn't, like parent sleep and like infant temperament, and these are things that we could definitely try and do in future studies. But in terms of clinical implications, I think this study does kind of highlight and show us that it's important to remember that parental perceptions drive parents' decisions, whether they seek help, whether they try and intervene with their baby's sleep. And if we want to help these families, we should really move beyond just tracking and focusing on the sleep and the specific objective kind of characteristics of the sleep, and focus not only on the baby, but really on parents' emotions, cognitions, behaviors that play a huge part in shaping their infant sleep, the ways they perceive their infant sleep. And of course, these factors should thus play a role in assessment and in treatment of infant sleep problems. So this is a snapshot of the publication that happily has recently been accepted and published in Sleep Medicine, if anybody wants to take a look. And for now, I'd like to really thank my incredible partners in this project, my student Maya Poches, the incredible Natalie Barnett, whom we all know and love, and my postdoc mentor, Professor Michael Gradisar. And thank you all for listening.
Amazing. Thanks, Michal. It's so wonderful to see these data finally published. It's been a long time coming. So thank you so much for that.